hundreds of journalists descended on this trial, and this case has dominated headlines across the world. France 24 journalist Antonia Kerrigan joins us now with a look at that press coverage, both here in France and across the globe. This courtroom obviously never seen this much media attention before, and it's really remarkable how this case has spoken to women across the world, people all over the world. Antonia, let's talk about the way that Gisèle Pelicot, the victim in this case, has herself become such an icon.
Absolutely. Well, earlier today we spoke to Rachel Townsend, who is a journalist with ITV News. ITV News is a British TV station. They've had someone in the courtroom throughout proceedings, and today for the verdict they dispatched a special team to Paris to gather reactions. Let's first listen to what she had to say about why this has caught the popular attention worldwide.
When we first started covering the trial, at the very start, we noticed very quickly there was a huge appetite for this story. I think initially the shock and horror of the nature of it, how long it went on for, how long the abuse went on for, and how many men it involved. And then from that, Gisèle's personality is what has dominated. I mean, she has heroine status. This is a lady whose personal, her family life has been shattered, and yet from that she has said, no, let's hear this trial in open court, let the world know. And while she is dealing with this absolute personal tragedy, she has stood up for millions of women around the world.
Of course, Rachel Townsend is absolutely right. She's hit the nail on the head. Let's now look at some of the international papers. The New York Times had an article today entitled Gisèle Pelicot, the Face of Courage. Now, they describe her as a 72-year-old pensioner. She wasn't on social media. It was very hard to find any pictures of her before this trial. Only her friends and family knew, as they say, that she had an orange Louise Brooks bob and a penchant for round John Lennon sunglasses. Now she is this face visually synonymous with bravery across the globe, an icon, as this article says, for every woman rendered helpless, lied to and abused. Now they describe her appearance as without artifice, non-pretentious, and yet with a real self-respect that comes across there. They describe her face as an image now equivalent to the young man in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square in terms of this watershed moment that she has embodied in our global view of sexism and sexual violence. Now let's look at the Vogue Germany cover from last month. Now here we have Gisèle Pelicot's face writ large, and no more shame are the words on this front page. Of course, the article in the inside pages profiles this woman and explains how generally such trials happen in a closed courtroom, how generally they wish to protect victims by keeping their identities secret, confidential, but how she wanted her battle to help others, to help other women. And that brings us on to somewhere else in the German press. If we look at Tageszeitung, they have on the front page, Merci is what you see, and you have a defiantly raised fist in purple on that front page, and they say in that writing, to a woman who made history for having the courage to publicly denounce the crimes committed against her. This merci is, of course, a message we've seen echoed by women all over the world today.
And by a number of heads of state as well, and in Germany and Spain, thanking her for her courage and how stoic she's been throughout this terrible trial. It wasn't just the horrors of the details of these crimes that sent shockwaves throughout the world and through French culture. It was also the fact that these 51 men could have been people's neighbors, could have been people they worked with, could have been their family members. This was not the Me Too movement where it's, famous actors or people seen as in positions of power. These are everyday people. And I think that was really one of the details that made this resonate so much.
Absolutely. We could look at this piece in The Guardian, for instance, that has the headline, "A rapist can be in the family." That's a fairly chilling thought. But what this article points out is the descriptions of Dominique Pelicot from before the trial. He wasn't a monster. His family have said he liked cycling. He used to take his son and grandson to football matches. So he certainly had the visual of a family man. But of course, his family now describe him as the worst sexual predator in recent French history. That's extremely damning. That's his son who said that. And of course, it wasn't just him. It was 50 other men who have been identified and a couple dozen more who they weren't able to identify despite the extensive video footage. And of course, their positions in society, these men were integrated. They weren't strange rejects in their local areas. One was a nurse, there was a journalist, there was a soldier, an IT professional, farm workers, lorry drivers, most of whom, of course, what's extremely powerful and shocking, most of whom deny that they were guilty of rape. Let's now look at a piece from The Independent in which the headline refers to these rapists as Mr. Everyman, and the article points out that Dominique Pelicot was able to find all of these men willing to rape his wife in a 60-kilometre radius of their sleepy rural French town of Mazan. And in court, the excuses we heard were many, not necessarily varied. There was, "I never had the intention of raping her," one, although admitted, "but as I didn't have her consent, that means I did." Although others claimed they thought they were involved in some sort of consensual role play as part of the couple. Others say Dominique Pelicot manipulated or tricked them. And one even said he did it for not just Mr. but Mrs. Pelicot, for the couple's sexual satisfaction. So here we have a plethora of men who believe they could rape a living, unconscious woman and not believe they are rapists. That is something that has massively shocked the world's media.
And that Mr. Everyman phrase that reflects the term that has been commonly used in French, Monsieur tout le monde, which translates Mr. Everyman or Mr. Everyone, to reflect how French society now sees this could be literally anyone. Antonia Kerrigan, France 24 journalist with that look at the global headlines, thank you so much.